Hi, I'm Danny, and this is my April wrap-up. Unfortunately, the books I was going to include in this wrap-up, I had to return to the library before I was able to film this video, but I will just compensate for that by showing you pictures. The first book is Throne of Glass. I actually reviewed this cover of it, but I like this cover better. So, Throne of Glass was definitely worth the hype. It is about a girl named Selena who has been trained to be an assassin since she was about 8 years old, and about the time she's 17 she gets sent to the salt mines, which is basically a labor camp, and after being there for about a year she is summoned by the prince to be in his father's competition to find the kingdom their own personal assassin. The whole thing about her being there is she's supposed to be a jewel thief, so none of the men in the competition take her very seriously. But like I said, it's definitely worth the hype, and I definitely recommend this if you're looking for a new fantasy read with a kick-butt female heroine. And I gave this a 4.5 stars on Goodreads. The next book is Ruby Red. It's about a girl named Gwen who grows up in a family full of time travelers, but only one family member can time travel at a time, and only one of them is born with a gene. In her family, it's the women, but there is another family where one boy or man is born with the time traveling gene. This book started out pretty okay, and as we got to the middle and the ending of the story, it got much better. But as I said in my TBR, I don't really read science fiction, and while this was very kind of light on the science fiction, it was a main aspect, but it wasn't like so much that you're like, what? I don't understand any of that. But it was pretty good, and I'm not quite sure if I'll pick up book 2 and 3. I might at a later date, but not at this time. So Gwen's whole life, everyone assumed it was her cousin Charlotte because of some sort of mathematical equation that some scientist did that says the person who will be born with this gene will be born on this day. But Gwen was born actually a day after that date, or supposedly she thinks. So her whole life she believes it's her cousin Charlotte who is going to be doing all this time traveling, which she's kind of thankful for. She's never wanted to be the center of attention or wanted to do any time traveling. She's happy just being her. But as we find out later on in the story, it actually isn't Charlotte. Her and Charlotte both are kind of getting the dizzy spells, which signals that they are ready to start time traveling. But while Charlotte is still constantly getting dizzy and feeling she's going to pass out, it actually ends up being Gwen, who's not quite understanding what happens at first. She just knows she's standing one place 1 second, and then she reappears another, and then a few minutes later she reappears somewhere around the vicinity where she first disappeared. And so after doing that about 2-3 times, one of her friends finally convinces her that she needs to tell her mother. She tells her mother, and then that is definitely where the story picks up. And this is about halfway through the book, so it's not going to be an instant action-packed book. It definitely took a few hundred pages, like 150, before the action starts picking up. But if you're patient, the story does get pretty good. I gave this a 3-point-star Goodreads, and I'm not sure if I will pick up the next 2 books. I'm thinking about it, not quite sure yet though. Next I read Stolen. Sorry, the picture's very small, so I'm going to hold it a little closer to the camera. Okay? Did you see it? Okay. This is a book about a girl named Jima who goes to Vietnam, I believe, for a vacation with her parents over summer, I think. And she gets into an argument with her parents, and she stomps off to a coffee shop that's in the airport, and there she meets a boy named Ty. She knows he looks kind of familiar, but she can't quite place where she's seen him from. So her and Ty get to talking, and Ty ends up buying her coffee, which he ends up dosing with some sort of sleeping pill, I guess. And before she knows it, she can barely walk, and he says he's going to help her, and so she assumes back to her parents. But of course Ty actually takes her to the bathroom and kind of changes her clothes, I think, and takes her out of to another gateway, and she's so out of it that when people ask that if she knows him, she of course nods and smiles and holds on to him because she's so out of it. But when she finally does truly wake up, she's in a cabin in the middle of the Australian outback with absolutely nothing around but desert and like cactuses everywhere. So she constantly fights Ty, and this is a psychological thriller, so if you're looking for kind of a I got kidnapped and now I'm falling in love with my captor story, you kind of sort of get that, but Jima's not quite sure if I'm really falling in love with him or am I getting some sort of Stockholm syndrome. But the book ends definitely different than I thought it would. I kind of figured, she'd end up falling in love with him, but that's actually not how it ends. But if you're looking for a psychological thriller with a little bit of romance and a slight bit creepy, I definitely recommend this book. The last book I read this month is The Goddess Test by Amy Carter. I definitely like this book. I most definitely want to pick up the rest of this series after reading this book. It is, I heard from a lot of people, especially around BookTube and some of the reviews on Goodreads, that this book was okay. It wasn't the best, but I truly love this book. I'm going to definitely add it to my favorites list, and I'm definitely picking up the rest of the series. And this is about a girl named, oh God, I can't remember her name. This is about a girl named Kate whose mother's dying of cancer, and her mother's last wish is to move to her hometown called Eden in Montana, Michigan. Moved to her hometown called Eden in Michigan, and there she wants to live out her final months before she passes on. And Kate is 18, so her and her mom move, and she's kind of trying to spend as much time with her mom as she can because her mom's been fighting cancer since Kate was about 13 or 14, I believe. And so her mom, they have exhausted every possible medical treatment you could imagine, chemo and everything. And so her mother's pretty weak, and her skin supposedly looks almost like paper because she's so weak and tired and sick. Kate moves there, and her mother hires a woman named Sophie, who apparently has known her mother since they were younger. And Kate goes to town, and she meets all these different people, and so one of the most popular girls in school, boyfriend, starts paying attention to Kate. And of course, this girl invites Kate to go out to a party, and just right there, something's going to go wrong. So Kate is terrified of water bigger than a bathtub. So So Ava, the popular girl who invites Kate to go out to a party, tells Kate that the only way to get to a party, which is on this huge property in the middle of the woods, is to cross the lake by these stepping stones. So Kate gets across, and Ava helps her while doing it. And then Ava starts heading back to the car, and Kate's kind of wondering, what are you doing? And Ava tells her that if this is her punishment for flirting with her boyfriend. And of course Kate didn't. Ava, trying to show off, dives into the water and knocks herself out, and I don't mean just kind of conks her head. I mean she caves in her skull and she dies. So Kate jumps into the water, terrified of it, trying to save Ava. And of course Ava's already dead when she pulls her out of the water, and then up pops Henry. Henry offers to bring Ava back if Kate will agree to enter this test for him. So Kate agrees, not truly knowing what she's agreeing to, and Ava comes back. And then later on in the book, just as her mother starts getting a bit sicker, Henry shows back up, telling her, if you agreed to this, Ava's alive, now it's time for you to come and do this test with me. And of course Kate refuses, and he gives her about 24 hours to change her mind, otherwise there will be consequences. So 24 hours pass, and Kate still doesn't believe Henry for his consequences. And then Ava comes up dead. Apparently she died from an aneurysm. So the whole town is mourning Ava, and Kate realizes that Henry truly was telling the truth. So she goes back to see Henry, and she makes a new agreement with him. She says, if you keep my mother alive for me, I will do this goddess test for you. Henry tells her that while he cannot permanently keep her mother alive, he can keep her alive long enough for Kate to pass the test and then hopefully say goodbye to her mother. Which is unfortunate. I truly thought that Kate entering this test, because Henry is supposed to be Hades, I thought she would be able to keep her mother alive, but unfortunately that was not the case. So Kate starts starts living in Henry's house, and so Kate starts passing all the tests, and she doesn't quite know what the tests are, but she just knows that somehow she keeps on passing them while not knowing how she's passing them. So as we go along, Henry tells Kate that all the girls who have entered the test before have died, not actually from the test, but from someone who keeps killing them. Some have been poisoned, some have been stabbed, some have been drowned, all sorts of different ways. So you get towards the end of the book and you find out that Henry was married to Persephone, just kind of like in the Greek mythology, which this book is actually a spin-off of Greek mythology of Hades and Persephone. So as you get towards the end of the book, you find out who was the person trying to kill off all the girls, and I'm not going to spoil that for you, so I'm definitely recommending you pick up this book. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I'm most definitely picking up the rest of the series. Well, that was my April wrap-up, and I'll see you all next month. Bye!